Okay, and we are live. So welcome everybody to this week's Wednesday webinar. A lot of W's. My name is Matthew Gall. I am the broker with MAG Real Estate. I am with Autumn Sheffield, one of our realtors. And today we're going to talk about the investment on a property and how to get into investing and what it entails and all of those fun things. So give us a little bit about what we're going to be talking about. Give us our intro. What are we going to talk about tonight?
We're going to talk about investments and how it is actually something that is attainable for anybody. You think that you have to be extremely wealthy to be able to have an investment property, but all you really need is a good plan and to know the type of financing you can get in order to do that. Mm-hmm. Texas is huge and people are moving here faster than ever.
A lot of influx from out of state for sure. Even in the slower market, we're still seeing quite a few numbers of people moving here. So
yeah, absolutely. You know, and I got very inspired by a client of mine who's very, very young, and she had a plan. She had a plan since she was 22. And she knew exactly what she wanted to do because she did her homework and she did her research and has a full-time operating Airbnb right now.
Nice.
And I think that's amazing. I kind of learned along the process with going through with it with her.
Yeah. I've done a lot of flipping and building, but that's just to sell. I've not, now I do property management, but I've never held them myself. I've just always sold them and made money on that. But you know, the market's a little bit different now and things have kind of changed a bit. And so it's holding property right now is a really good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, the thing about it was fully furnished. And I just think that it is a wonderful idea. Now, her thing is that she needed a property management company to be able to go off the Airbnb, VRBO, all the other sites, the checklist of what you have to have in order.
Yeah.
But she knows and understands that once she gets the hang of it, she can eventually do that herself. Mm-hmm. Because those property management companies, and they really work hard at getting you compliant and then getting you out there to be seen online at least. She knows that she could do it herself eventually when she gets the hang of what she's seeing with the property management company do.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that's wonderful. I also think house hacking is a great idea. We just talked about this before. Mm-hmm. I had a friend, I was so intrigued by it. She was 22 and she bought a duplex and she was able to live on the other side and she rented out the other side, and that's how she made her mortgage payments.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, that's a good way to do it because it gets you around a lot of some of the lending rules that come with a strictly income property that you're not going to live in.
Yeah, your interest rate, everything is totally different.
Everything changes, yeah.
It's totally different. But I mean, I'm going to go right into this. There's probably 7 types of investment properties. Yeah. Do you know them off the top of your head?
All of them off the top? No, probably not. No. Sorry. It's a good thing you got notes, right?
I got notes.
Okay,
sorry, trees.
So go ahead and give us our first main topic.
We've got the single family home.
Yes.
We've got the single family home, of course, you know, buy it, live in it, rent it out.
Yep.
Great investment.
One of the more hands-off types, right?
Absolutely.
You get a renter, they could be in there 2-3 years, and you know, you get a good one and they pay all the time on time,
and
right?
You get the bad ones.
Few minor repairs here and there, and that's when it works out well.
Yeah. Until your lease has to be renewed.
Yes.
And then, oh no, what's going to happen?
Or they stop paying.
Or they
junked your house.
Or they junked your house.
Those things sometimes are not so good.
Yeah. Or they don't mow, and then you get notices and fines from the HOA. We've got a small multifamily home, mm-hmm. So you know you've got your duplex and your quadplex.
Duplex, triplex, quadplex, mm-hmm. Those sorts of things. Once you get over that, then you're more into like the commercial zone,
right?
Where you're talking about more like apartments, but. The duplex, triplex, quadplex, those are all really good investments as well. And usually the cost per unit goes down as opposed to a single family, right? Mm-hmm. Because there's multiple units in one building. And so you get a little bit of a discount on the purchase price. However, you can't charge quite as much rent as a single family, depending on location, right? So definitely some positives to the multifamily as well.
But I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to be the property manager either.
Yeah, I mean, well, property management in itself is kind of it can be time consuming and it can be difficult. You know, from a management standpoint, if you have a single family home or you have a 4-unit home, the difference is a lot more people, right? If you got a quadplex, you got 4 different people on one property, but usually not as much upkeep and repairs because it's all one building, right? And you get to charge per unit,
right,
as a property manager as well as an owner.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, there's goods and bads to it, for sure.
Especially if you become good neighbors with somebody and then you have to knock on their door to collect the rent.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's if you're living in it, right? And that's one of the things we'll get into a little bit more is when you live in one of the units, that changes things a lot and makes it better in some ways and worse in others.
Right.
So.
And then we've got our short-term rentals, which I am a huge fan. I love going into Airbnbs in different cities and states. Yeah. I think it's great.
It's a very different type of travel when you're staying in one of those, whereas you're actually in a neighborhood as opposed to you're in a hotel right downtown, you know, Ubering everywhere.
Yeah, and, right. But even if you're in a neighborhood that's a little more established that has no HOA, it's kind of nice to have a little home on a little bit of property to be able to enjoy wherever you're going.
And I would say that for the short-term rentals, if anybody's looking into getting into that, there are definitely, especially in our area, there are some rules to it, and especially like the city of New Braunfels has cracked down on issuing permits to do that. In fact, I don't think they're issuing anymore at all at this point. It's very difficult to get approved for that. So you have to have one that's already kind of grandfathered in, and is able to do that, and you got to look into that before you try to purchase a property for short-term rental, because if it doesn't already qualify and you think that's what you're going to be able to do with it, you may not be able to.
Or what happens if it's zoned for short-term and you go ahead and purchase the property and then they change? You know, then what are you going to do?
Which they have the right to do.
They have the right to do.
Yeah, so they could do that. Then you know, most people at that point would probably just turn it into a long-term rental and just get somebody to go in there monthly, you know, on a 1-year lease or whatever they have to do. Or if the market's good and you have some equity, you can sell it, or, you know, there's things you can do. And that doesn't happen a lot. It's just, we've seen over the last few years, the city really doesn't like short-term rentals as much as they used to.
There's probably more people that are grandfathered in at this point.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
Feel, you know. So then we've got, and another thing about, you know, short-term rentals is, all of the compliance and the fees that you have to pay.
Yes.
It's a lot, but it can be very lucrative if you have the right type of property management company marketing your property, or if you're on the river.
Yeah.
Pretty much it.
Yeah. But you charge a lot more for nightly stay.
Yeah.
You know, if you have a long-term rental, you have somebody in there that's paying maybe $75 a day, you know, if you calculate that by 30 days. But, you know, people pay $125, $150 a night to be in a short-term rental. So you don't have to have it full all the time. You charge more per night, and people will pay it for nice properties.
Sure.
That, you know,
sure. Yeah. You also have to keep up with the hotel occupancy.
Yep.
And I know that you can get in really big trouble if you, so then another property
don't try that.
Don't try that. Is long-term rentals, which there are so many rentals in New Braunfels.
Yes.
There are so many, and I've seen so many homes for sale that ended up having to switch over to a rental because they had no other way to make their mortgage and they needed to move. And it's hard finding a rental. It's hard getting people to answer you back when you're trying to find a rental for.
It does seem that way a lot, yeah.
Yeah. But it can be good, you know. I have people that live in New York, and they thought that they were going to move here, and they didn't want to sell their house for nothing. So luckily they had someone come and sign it, and that gives them a little leeway.
And I believe they're doing a short-term rental on the place, aren't they? They're subleasing.
Yeah. It is the nurse locating company. So they find traveling nurses and doctors.
So they might be here for 2-3 months at a time working at a certain hospital and then get relocated.
Yes. But I mean, I've driven by because it was my old neighborhood a couple of times.
Yeah.
And there are boats and stuff out there. So maybe the nurses like to boat, on their breaks.
I mean, you got days off.
I mean, come on.
I mean, don't most of them work like 3 or 4 12s
right.
a week? So,
they deserve to have fun.
You got time. Yeah.
And then we've got the big one, which is commercial.
Yes.
And commercial property, from what I know, is want to pull your hair out at times.
It's a different animal for sure. Now, I will say that if you buy a commercial property, like Little Strip Mall, say it has 5 office or retail buildings in it, you're going to have longer term tenants that pay more money, right? Yeah. And most of them are more stable tenants. You know what I mean? They have a business. If they're profitable, then they're going to be there for quite a while. So at first it's a lot more difficult. You got to get all your permits. You got to buy your building. You got to find the renters. If it's already existing, great. You know what I mean, because it may already have people in it. But there's a lot of work that goes into getting it set up. But then once you get some good long-term tenants, you can kind of cruise control with it. It's just a lot at the beginning.
If you're in a city that acts quickly.
Yes.
So that's one thing to note. It can take a long time, and I know that commercial loans. If you go out to get a commercial loan, they can go up as up to 35%, and your down payment. And basically, in my mind, I think it's just more find the money, find investors, and you can make it happen that way. Mm-hmm. Then we've got raw land, where there's no septic, there's no electricity, there's no water hookup, and then you're thinking, oh, it's just a $250,000 5-acre property, but then you think about all the things you do to get it plumbed for electricity and water, and that could be $30,000-$50,000
easy.
So
easy.
So that's, and you think that, oh, I'll just go get a container house and live on it. Well, that container house
depending on where
like
you're
$150,000 home.
Yeah.
And then you've got the mixed use. So in my mind, that's more of what we all see, where there is a TJ Maxx, a Ross. They're all kind of the same types of shops.
Yeah.
In a strip building.
Yeah. Or some of the mixed use ones, like we have a couple of them downtown New Braunfels, but mostly you're going to see them Austin, San Antonio, where they're like retail shops on the bottom and then apartments on the top.
Yes. So that would be more like Mayfair, possibly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mayfair, and I guess where North Academy is. Mm-hmm. Orlando, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that has always appealed to me as well.
It's interesting. Yeah. It's I don't know. I've never wanted to do it just because it seems like you have to do 2 different worlds, right? You have residential tenants, and then you have your commercial tenants, and you hope that you get longer term tenants, but you never really know, and it's like doing 2 different jobs.
yeah, unless they own the homes that are around there, like if they're town homes.
Or if you have somebody who's got a retail shop that is renting the space above it, and then they're doing both.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know. It has its appeal, but
I've lived in a mixed development, and I have to say it was fun just walking to go get breakfast. Then there was a sushi restaurant just down the street. Just.
Yeah.
It's great.
God forbid there's a liquor store. You could hurt yourself. You don't have to drive anywhere.
Matthew, don't kid yourself. You're talking about yourself. Come on. But you don't have to start with a huge apartment complex. You can start small, and it can be done if you just have a plan, and if you get connected with a lender there are so many options that people just don't know about.
Yeah.
And you know, rather than spending your tax return or spending your inheritance, sometimes it's okay to be land rich,
Hmm.
you know, and to have options that way.
Yep.
So there's a lot of different types of loans, and Matthew and I just decided that we're not going to go through all of them because we're not lenders.
Yeah, we're not lenders, so we don't want to start giving a whole bunch of in-depth information and then say something wrong.
I would just say if you were
Um,
a first time investor, a first time that doing the house hacking thing and living on one side of it and renting it
yeah.
out, then your loans could be significantly lower in interest rate and down payment.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's give the example of like a duplex. Okay, so you buy a duplex and you live on one side and you rent out the other. When you do that, the lender is looking at it like you live in the place. So you're going to get a regular loan,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not considered a business at that point, and so it becomes a lot easier to qualify. You can a lot of times have a lot less down payment, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's just a lot of advantages to that. Now, I will say there is one disadvantage, and that is that your tenant lives right next door to you.
Yeah.
So, a lot of times tenants, if something small happens with the house and they gotta like go online to the online portal that the property management company uses and say, hey, this light bulb ain't working or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to do that. They're just going to replace the bulb, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if you're right next door, they're just going to come knock on your door and say, can you fix this, right?
Easy solution.
Yeah.
Get your best
So-
friend to move into the other side. Your sister, a family member.
If you like them.
If you like them. You may find that you might not like
Yeah,
them.
you might not
after a
want your
while.
family that close. I don't know. But anyways, you have, there is that downside. But I mean, as far as the loan qualifications, it's a heck of a lot easier.
Yeah.
And you don't have to, I mean, you look at FHA loans and you can do as little as 3.5%
Yep.
down. When you're looking at actual investment property loans, it's 20 to 25%.
And sometimes even 35, depending.
Sometimes
on
can
the
be higher
budget.
depending on the. It really depends on what it can rent out for.
Yeah.
That is a huge player in it. So you got to
Right.
find the right neighborhood that has a good rental rate but also low prices. So good luck.
Well, good luck. But if grandma gifts you a house,
Oh yeah,
it's already
absolutely.
paid
I mean,
for.
that's
You do a home equity
very different. Yeah.
loan if you don't have enough of the down payment. I mean, I'm sure you still have to come up with something, but you can still use that equity to base your loan off of. I mean, there's so many different ways.
Mhm.
And so for me, it was always a dream to think about investing in a property until I learned that it is really attainable
Mhm.
if you start small.
Yeah.
You know?
I would say most people that do this start with a single family home or a duplex and move into one side. I think that's how most people get started. And then, you build some equity. You're able to take a HELOC in the house. You can use that money to buy other things, do other things, or you just make enough money to where you're ready to move on to something else.
Right.
But most people, I think, start with just a regular single family duplex.
Mm-hmm.
The quadplex is probably a little bit much for your first property.
Yep.
Just a lot to deal with, So if I was given the advice, I would say start with single family or a duplex, live in one side of it. I mean, you could do a duplex and not live in one side of it and have two tenants, but don't try to hit the moon just yet. It's not. It's
Now,
you gotta crawl before you walk.
is there a time limit that you have to live? Say you're living in a duplex and the other half is rented out, that you can eventually move out and rent out both of them?
So this is where I don't know if I should say this.
So I was under the impression if you lived in it for a year that you could.
So okay, this is my understanding. Okay,
This is just my
and this is what we were saying earlier, is we're not lenders,
Right.
So we don't know for certain, but when you do it, you're telling them I'm going to live there,
right,
you know, for the
life of the
duration.
loan.
Now, I think there is some loans that have the 1-year deal, but I wouldn't just take that for granted as like all of them do.
Right.
I'm not sure if all of them do, but I know some do. So you do want to take that into consideration when you're going to get that loan,
Yeah.
and if you're going to live there long term, because a lot of people eventually they will move out of that unit and rent it out to somebody else and live in a single family themselves, because long term, ultimately, whatever, they don't want to be in a duplex, right? So I think a lot of people do that, but you know, it's kind of, I view it kind of like when you have a job and you use the job to get the loan on the house, but you fully intend to quit that job soon. You know, it's like gray area, you know. So but yeah, Connie just left me. She said 1 year, so she's aware of the 1 year thing too. And you can do that on the duplex. Yeah, you can do it on a fourplex. Yeah, you can do it on a fourplex also. Up to fourplex, you can live in one of them and it be considered a personal use home.
Right.
So up to 4.
Right.
Over that, then you get into commercial.
And then the other, you know, there's so many of them. The only other topic that I wanted to cover was really seller financing, because if there is a seller out there that is willing to give you a good deal, their interest rates might be a little bit higher, but that may be a way, you know, to get your foot in the door.
Yeah, and historically, seller financing has been more than like your general rate, but I have seen quite a few lately that are less, that are offering around 5%, because they want to give that as an added incentive, right, to use them instead of regular financing. I'll say this too, just a little disclaimer: if you're going to do seller financing, it is a good option because they're usually not as strict on the qualification rules. However, they do have clauses in there, and you should get an attorney. Real estate agents can guide you to a certain point, but you do need an attorney for that, because you're signing a loan with that person, and we're not lenders, right? And a lot of them will have a balloon payment at 5 or 7 years, and you know that could be a little hitch in the giddy up. You know what I mean? If at 5 years you have to pay $50,000 extra or something like that, you know, I mean, that could hurt you. And if you don't have an attorney or don't have anybody, you might not even know that that's coming,
right? And
that can get you in trouble,
right?
So
I think the takeaway from finding the money, whether you get a loan or it's gifted to you or you seller finance, the bottom line is you don't have to use the traditional bank loan. That is kind of a stigma in everybody's mind.
Yeah,
that's what they have to do, so they just don't even think about it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, there are options, and you know, like we said before, the FHA one where you can do as little as 3.5% down. Just to be clear, you have to live in one of the units on that property.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that is for sure, you have to live in one of the units. And if you're not going to live in it, then there's other options like the DSCR. And that one is just basically goes off of what will the property rent for, and if the rent covers the mortgage, then you're pretty much approved, unless you have really, really bad credit or something like that would otherwise. But they don't take your personal income into account. So if you already own a home and you have a car payment and all a lot of fixed bills, and you couldn't afford to bring on another home, it doesn't matter, because a DSCR loan is gonna look at what will it rent for. If the rent covers the mortgage, you're good.
This is why you need good lenders and good agents that can steer you that way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just bottom line.
Yep.
And just to point something out, you know, also what we can do to help is if you find a short-term rental and it looks amazing, been there physically, the pictures look great, but then you go, it's even greater. You know, some people they just buy them, but they don't even ask to see the books to see how well they rent it out.
Yeah.
And that could be a hiccup in your plan when it's just not a desirable place to be rented.
And that comes into play hugely when you're talking about short-term rentals.
Right.
Because you can drive through and say, yes, this is a nice neighborhood. Okay, yes, it's close to shopping downtown, whatever, whatever people want to do. It's close to the lake, close to the river. You can be geographically just fine, but for whatever reason, if they're only getting like a 40% occupancy rate, that may not cover the bills. And if you're sitting there and you think, well, even if I got 75, I'd be fine. Well, if that's not realistic, then it's not a good investment.
I'll just put it on the marketplace. Go from there.
Yeah. Good luck.
So, my thing that I would like to do in the future is to really find that one property and it, when I am done with that and it's income generating, I would like to take a part of the 1031 exchange.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so interesting to me that if you keep doing that and you keep bigger, I mean you really just swap until you drop. And
mm-hmm.
and if everybody's going to die, of course, if
we
your
are.
your kids inherit that, then it is valued at this. They're not taking the value of it that it was 4 or 5 years ago. They are taking at what it's worth now, so you don't owe any taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
if the value goes down.
If the value goes down,
yeah,
I will have a plan.
Yeah. Well, and if you're watching and you don't know what a 1031 exchange is, okay, so basically if I own a piece of property that is an investment property and I want to sell it and buy something else, I can sell it, and there's rules on this, and again, there's other people you should talk to, but there's rules on this, and you have to basically take that money and it has to sit in an account. It can only sit in that account for so long before you have to use it again. So you can sell a property, put the money in the account, buy the new property, use the money to buy the new property, and you don't have to pay taxes on the gains that you had because you reinvested. Okay? Yeah. Now, the other thing to think about in that, though, is eventually the government's going to get their money, right?
Yeah.
You're kicking the can down the road. You're saying, I'm not going to pay taxes now, and then do it again. I'm not going to pay taxes now, do it again. I'm not going to pay taxes now. But if you do eventually sell your properties and don't have them anymore, you will pay taxes on everything all the gains that you get once you cash out. You will pay the taxes later. And I don't know about you, but I've never seen taxes go down. So
it'll be up to my kids to figure out, because I will swap.
It'll be part of the estate. Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, if you do sell it and liquidate, then that's when you would end up paying a huge chunk of taxes. Mm-hmm. So, it alleviates the need to pay taxes now for taxes later. And if you're doing it like you're saying, where, well, I'm going to hold it in estate and I'm going to keep them until I die, mm-hmm. then that's, probably better for your finances while you're alive and for your family later, because if you have a life insurance policy, that's probably gonna, it's gonna cover most of taxes, right? Yeah. So you're gonna have that additional money in the bank to be able, for your family to be able to offset those taxes. Yeah. So, but it is a good program if you're just looking to exchange properties.
Right. And also buying a fixer-upper, I highly believe that as long as you go through a lender that can make sure that it is a value based on the money that you're putting into it, rather mm-hmm. than pouring your own cash at it and not knowing how it's going to go. And
real estate agents can help to a degree, but a lot of agents are not investors.
Right.
And I see a lot right now where there's a rundown house, and just give you an example of entry-level stuff like Cibolo shirts, that kind of area, mm-hmm. where they'll say, okay, the property we're asking for $150,000 and the ARV is $250,000, mm-hmm. right? Okay, so ARV, like your actual retail value, okay? So they're saying if it was brought up to speed, right? If it was remodeled, it would be worth $250,000. We only want $150,000. And that sounds really good. People are like, oh, there's $100,000 there. Yeah, but you have to realize that right now material and labor is super expensive. And if you're going to sell it, if you're remodeling to sell, then there's, you got to take into consider, if I'm going to sell it for 250,000, I probably have 20,000 in closing costs. So now I only got 80,000. It's going to take, if it's, let's say, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,500 square foot, you're gonna use every dime of that 80,000. So if you're trying to sell it, not a good idea. If you're trying to hold it and rent it out as an investment property, you got to do it in the right market, like right now, where prices are low. Because in 5-7 years or whatever, that 250 turns into 300. Now I've got $50,000 worth of equity, and somebody's been paying my mortgage.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So there's a lot of things to think about when you're looking at fixer-uppers.
Well, yep. People get excited and they do a lot of work in a home that they fixed up, and then they realize the market just isn't there to support it being sold for what they want it to be sold for.
So Tammy's asking what makes a property a good investment in today's market: cash flow, appreciation potential, and location, or something else. So we kind of just talked about it, but yeah, it's first you got to get it for the right price, and you got to make sure that the rent will cover the mortgage. And if you're going into this thinking I'm going to make money every month, you're thinking incorrectly in my mind. The payday is not every month. You would like to see it make, on your regular 3-bedroom, 2-bath, you'd like to see it make $100 to $200 a month, so that you have a little bit of money in the kitty, so that if something breaks on the house, you need to replace the water heater, replace the dishwasher, you have some cash flow to pay for that. But the payday is not on your monthly income usually. Your payday is when you sell it at a higher value than you made it for. So for instance, if I keep a property for 5 years and I make $50,000 on the property, I made $10,000 a year. That's where the profit is. It's not in the monthly rent, not usually. So okay. So and another thing you might want to think about when you're doing the rental property is, what school district is it in? A lot of renters have kids, right? Well, if let's say I'm in Seguin and I'm in the Seguin ISD, or I'm in Navarro, you're gonna keep Navarro's gonna be rented out, right? I mean, everybody wants to get into Navarro, and a lot of people can't, if they can't buy a house and they're renting, they still want to be in that school district. So the location for that matters.
What proximity to shopping? What side of the freeway you're on? Yeah. Well, I mean, and where we're at in New Braunfels, that really matters. I mean, the difference between being with GVEC or NBU is a few $100s a month. So, in utilities, so that matters a lot. And so I mean, location, proximity to shopping. A lot of people want to be close to those things. They want to be close to an HEB. They want to, they don't want to have to drive 20 miles to go to the grocery store. I don't. I get my HEB delivered now. I figure I am saving more money in gas. Well, there's that. Yes, that's true. So, but I mean, all those things come into play when you're looking at what kind of property you want to buy, or where location wise you want to buy. Right. Well, and it can be a little aggressive too when you're wanting to go off after that priced right investment property. You may lose out on a couple of deals on offers that you put in. I mean, it's really tight. Yeah. So question is, what do you guys think about the 203K loans? Do you know anyone who's actually done this successfully? I do not. The 203K, I believe, is the one where it's an FHA construction. So you buy the house and they give you X amount of dollars to fix it up. I have not seen anybody do that myself. I would just, my thing with that would be, you have to make sure that your numbers are good. Like, you have a little bit of playroom and buffer, because to the actual value it's going to be once it's fixed. Because if it doesn't, then you're wholly stuck for a while. Absolutely. I mean, I built a house in early 2000. And my dad was the superintendent, the general contractor on the job, but I was the one that went out and priced everything. But then, oh no, the septic's going to cost more than you had planned, and you still have to stay within budget, based on the loan that you're given, or you don't want to go over that amount. Yeah, and that happens almost every time you
do any kind of fixer upper. It almost always goes over budget, and not necessarily because you or your contractor or the
there could be a ghost in there. You never know.
Yeah, yeah. But you have you just never know until you start. I'll go back to one of the first ones I ever did. It had the wood paneling on the walls, right? And well, I mean, it was an old house, right?
I know. I painted mine.
so we took the wood paneling off because in 2020 it was we're not painting wood paneling. There's no way, right? So we take it off, and then we find a ton of termite issues. Mm-hmm. So then we're down to the studs, replacing half the studs, and that was like $20,000 we didn't even think about. Luckily, it was 2020, and we made money. So we still had a little bit of room there, and we always do that when we do these. Is it's like, okay, we think it's going to take 80,000, so factor in 100, right? And you give yourself a $20,000 buffer. The problem with the 203K is that you have to give them the receipts. You have to show them everything that you're spending, and then they disperse the money likewise. At least
and
I
they don't
believe
disperse it right at once. They
no,
have like what they call as draws.
Draws, yeah. And so you have to, if you're thinking, well, I'll just tell them I need 80 when I need 60. That's not going to work out.
Better go to a small time bank out in the country where no one's around.
Yeah. So they I mean, I know that they work for some people. Obviously, that's the loan program. I know people use it. I personally don't have any experience using them, and always kind of felt like I don't want Big Brother looking over my shoulder and having to have every receipt, because when we did it, a lot of the work we did ourselves. Mm-hmm. I mean, 90% of the work we did ourselves. And so what am I supposed to do? Am I going to bill my lender for my labor?
My wife wanted it.
It's weird, right?
My husband wanted it. I'm sorry.
So yeah, it's but it is a program out there that people can use.
Yeah. I mean, and it's kind of like a, if you were going to fix up a house, is there anybody that can go and completely remodel just the main areas of the home in order to just flip it?
Yeah, I mean, you see a lot of people doing that. I've seen a lot of people doing that. In
you don't pay until you close.
So, yeah, I mean, that's how they work, but they give you a certain amount of time. You might have 3 months to get everything done, or something like that. But you see that a lot, especially in Civilo shirts, Converse. They kind of put lipstick on the pig and put it for sale, So
I have heard, don't put money in the kitty and lipstick on the pig.
You're getting all the sayings today.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. But, basically, I think that really real estate investing doesn't have to be as complicated. And I know that sometimes people are, they don't have the credit score. They think they don't, and maybe they're too embarrassed to go talk to a lender because they don't want the lender to know every detail about their financial history. But there are so many things that they can help you with. They're not looking at that. It's like if I go into a house and the sellers or the clients are apologizing for the mess, I'm not looking at the dishes in the sink.
Right.
I'm looking at a way to help you. Mm-hmm. And so I think it kind of deters people from going, but they are there to help. And there's so many people and companies out there that can get your credit to where it needs to be, so that it can be attainable for all.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're, and that's on the credit front, right? There's people that can help with that, and you don't have to have excellent credit to do these things. But, a lot of people I think are also concerned with the down payment, the money out of pocket. There's a lot of things that people do to come up with that money. I mean, one we talked about, right, is, okay, then buy a duplex, right? Move into the duplex, and, you do an FHA at 3.5% down, and you live in it for a few years, and then move out when you're ready. That's a good way to get started. On a DSCR, so if you're just buying a single family home, you probably want to do 25% down. And if you're, but I would say if money is kind of an issue, well, don't start in New Braunfels where the houses are 400,000, right? You know what I mean? Start in Schertz, start in Cibolo. I always go back to Schertz, Cibolo, Converse. The reason for that is because there's an Air Force base there, right?
A lot of military,
and there's a lot of military coming and going, and a lot of them do own homes, but a lot of them rent, and so you may have higher turnover, but you'll have a high occupancy rate. They might be here for a year and then PCS somewhere else, and then you find somebody else, and who's coming into the base, and you can have a very high occupancy rate in a place like that, and the homes are 200,000.
Yeah.
So the down payment is significantly less, almost half of what you would probably pay here in New Braunfels for a rental home.
Right.
So to alleviate the down payment, you would go geographically different. Even if you live in New Braunfels and you want, you're like, well, I'd like something close. If that's not attainable right now, well, get that first one under your belt that's a little bit further away, and then you can move up to something that's a little bit higher end, maybe here in New Braunfels.
Right.
So.
Right. But I just think that I was so inspired by this young woman, and it was really all because she had a plan. So many tools and resources out there that you can find this information on your own, and then you're equipped enough to go to a realtor and go to a lender to ask the right questions. And not feel like you don't know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It's just about getting to know what's out there, and I'd be happy.
Mm-hmm. I know she would. Okay, so one more thing I think is worth mentioning is it a good time to be investing in properties?
Yeah, I don't think the interest rate is going to change that much.
Yeah.
You wait, you may miss on an opportunity.
Yeah.
If chances are maybe you do wait, and we have another pandemic.
God,
but do we want that?
Yeah.
I mean, what are your thoughts?
So my thought is this: is right now, I have seen more so than I've ever seen investors buying new build homes. And I mean, I went into a neighborhood in Cibolo, and there was at least 8 properties that were currently for sale that an investor had bought. And then there was probably 8 more that the same investor had for rent. And I'm like, what is going on? And I've been to a number of subdivisions like that,
and they're not making a lot of money off of it. They're turning around and selling them.
It's volume. Yeah, but they're renting a lot of them out. Mm-hmm. And so you always, when there are large investment firms that are doing things like that, you take note of that, right? And you say, okay, so in the retail market right now, which is what I call your regular home buyers and sellers, right? In your normal market right now, there's not a lot of buyers. They are afraid of the rate, or money's tight, whatever you name it. They're just not buying a lot right now. But investors are, and the reason for that is a couple of things. One, I think most investors are in tune with the market, and they realize that we're never going to see 3.75 loans, 2.75. That is something that may happen 40 years down the road. It may happen again. It's not going to happen in a long time. So they're not waiting for that. But what they realize is that because there's not a lot of home purchasers right now, the prices are coming down significantly. And for an investor, okay, if I have to pay 7% on my loan, as an investor, I don't care, because I'm not the one paying that. My renter is. Right. And so if the renter is going to pay the percentage rate that's higher than everybody wants, it doesn't matter to me as an investor. And the prices are low. So if I invest in a property now, the chances of me having equity in 5 years are far greater than if I bought my home 5 years ago.
Yeah.
To now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if I bought when the rates were low and the prices were high, I would not have equity. I would be stuck with that house, whether I'm able to rent it out or not.
Yeah.
I'd be upside down. So right now, even though the rates are high, you don't have to pay that rate. Your renter's paying it. The prices are low. Buy the house. Right. This is the best time to invest. You always do. Investors always do the opposite of what the masses do. And the masses are not buying, so the investors are.
Are they able to negotiate buying 8 homes in the same neighborhood?
Oh, you know they are.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. If an investor goes into to a builder right now and says, I'm going to take 10 homes off your hands, they're not paying retail.
Right.
No. And they're probably still getting really stellar rates. Now, anytime it's an investment home, it's a little bit higher because it's a different type of loan. Right? But they're probably still buying their rate down. They're probably still helping them with closing costs. They're doing all of those things because moving 10 homes in a neighborhood takes 4 months. And this guy just walked in and wants to do it all.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, so, you know, for them, they're making deals and doing things for people. Now, if you walk in there and try to buy one as an investor, they're not looking at you the same as a guy buying 10, right? So don't walk in there as an investor thinking you're going to get all the same stuff.
That's when you grab your friends and people you know.
Yeah. See if we can
see if we can make something out of this.
Yeah, we'll crowdsource it.
Yeah, we're going to crowdsource it. GoFundMe.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, you know, I just don't know. If you have the means, I don't know what would be stopping people from investing right now.
Yeah.
It is the time. Yeah. And then in 5 years, 5 to 7 years, when the rates back down to 4.5% and the home value went up, 20-25%, then you can think about cashing out.
Right.
So when everyone else is buying homes, you're selling homes. When everyone else is trying to sell a home that they can't, you're buying them. And what you're going to find is when you're in that market and you're trying to sell those homes, you're going to sell them for top dollar because people are competing to buy the houses, right? There's more competition for it. So you're gonna sell much easier on the back end if you buy now when the prices are low. And I think a lot of people just aren't in that mindset, don't think that. They think, well, the rate's high, payment's going to be high, I'm not going to be able to rent it for that.
Right.
But the home is selling for $75,000 less than it did when you were looking at 4% or 3.5% or whatever, right? So the it's a trade-off. Your payment's probably going to be about the same, and you're gonna it's a stronger investment because the likelihood of equity is much more, and so you're not going to be stuck.
Right.
So
stuck with the 6, 7, 8 kids, and you thought it was going to be your starter home.
Yeah, that would be bad.
Yeah, but that is the reality of it.
Yeah, that is, and I mean, there's a lot of people right now that bought in 2019 to 2022. And whether it be investment or personal, and they're upside down, and they can't sell the house if they want to. They just can't afford it, and so they're stuck in that house. And even as an investor, you don't want to be stuck in a house. You never know. Life changes. Things happen. You could have a major medical issue and be like, I need to sell a couple houses. And if you're stuck in a house upside down, there's nothing you can do about it. You got property, but you can't. There's no money to access.
Yeah, you'd have to sell your house and then still owe some.
Right, and you'd have to come to the table with money, and that's not helping. So when the prices are low, that's when you buy. So
I guess in conclusion, that is why you seek the advice of people in the industry.
Yeah.
It's smart to do that.
It is, yes, but I will say this: for investors, you need to be a little bit more picky about the agent that you choose, because you need one that has some experience and understands, that what's a good value, what's not, that is a good negotiator. Because right now, I mean, we're not paying what they're asking, right? And get an agent that understands what your goals, what your priority is. Is it the amount of money out of pocket? Is it What is it that you need from that?
What do you want to walk away with?
Yeah, because there's a lot of things you can do in an offer that can change what your out of pocket is, or what your payment is, or you know what I mean. There's a lot of things that can be done to offset things, such as asking for closing costs for a rate buy down. Or if that's not what's important, then then we might just ask for less on the sales price, because that's going to be what gets the payment down. And so there's different things that can be done, and a good agent is going to listen to what you have to say, what your goals are, what you want to accomplish, and they're going to tailor their service towards that.
Work on that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's why it's so important to be like up front when you go in to negotiate, or to even have a listing appointment. To be able to ask the right questions instead of ooh and ah and over the house.
Yeah.
What do you want on it?
Yeah.
What do you need to walk away with? They're important.
Yep. For sure.
For sure.
Is that all you got?
That's all I have.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know it. Well, we can talk for 8 minutes.
Okay. So wait, there's a question. If you were buying your first investment property today, where would you invest and why?
Yeah.
Go.
There is a duplex in my neighborhood, HOA, and bigger lots. Yes, I'd have to put a bit of money into it, but there's only one street amongst several other streets named after old ladies from A. H. Hilda. No, Helen. And that one particular street at the edge, they are always full. Why? Because there's more yard, and it's occupied right. It's been on the market a bit, but the price is right, and that's what I would probably do right now. Either that or invest in AI. I'm not sure yet. Okay.
All right. Gotcha.
That's what I would do.
Okay,
right now.
so if I was gonna buy my first investment rental right now, I would stay with single family, and I would be on the south side of 35, either New Braunfels or Seguin. Yeah. Now here's what I'll say, because those are two totally different animals. Okay, so on south side of 35 in New Braunfels, they're older houses. Okay, so I'm going to do a lot of homework on that house. Okay, I want to know if it's had foundation repairs, because they're older. They're going to be prone to that sort of thing. I want to know if the roof's been replaced. I'm going to pick that place apart because it's older. I need to make sure that it's structurally sound. And you can get some good deals in there. And so that's one option. The other option would be to go into Seguin, where and I would stay in the Navarro School District, and I would go after something newer. I think there's KB, there's DR, there's Legend, there's a lot of different builders out there right now that are off of like Cordova, 46, that kind of area. So that's a newer home, but because it's in Seguin, they're a lot better pricing. A lot of times they'll be 10% less just because it's in Seguin, not New Braunfels. So your money goes a lot further out there. The home is newer. Most of them are not going to be under the 1-2 warranty from a builder, but definitely still under the 10-year structural warranty. So you have a little bit more of a safety net there.
Well, in Dove City tax, I know that we don't have city, so I don't know how far that spans.
Yeah, most of the properties out there are sub 2% on the property taxes. So your money goes a little bit further there, and so I think that would be very appealing to somebody for their first time. And yes, Seguin is not as desirable and as glamorous as New Braunfels, I guess. But it's a 10-minute drive up the road.
They have the best sushi there ever.
In Seguin?
A-Tan.
Oh, okay. So
it's right by the library.
It's definitely Seguin, just because of the sushi.
It's the sushi.
Yeah. So I mean, there's I think that's a good place to start for the money. And a newer home is always better for newer investors because there's just less little things that go wrong that just
Right.
kind of eat up time and effort. And a lot of times, if you're first time investing and you get an older home, you have like these little repairs that keep popping up, and you're not making a whole lot every month anyway, and you're like, what am I doing? This is stupid.
Yeah.
Why am I doing
You
this?
just have the
And it just
title.
kind of wears you down in the beginning. But if you get something that's newer, you're just not going to have as many issues. I will say, I manage 4 properties that are on the north side of Seguin, and they are always full. We've had turnover, but they are always rented out within 2 to 3 weeks after vacancy.
Really?
I have never had any issues renting them out. And there's 2 of them that are 3-2, 1,500 square foot, and they're renting out for $1,850 a month.
Really?
Yeah, and they are full all the time. No
Wow.
problems re-renting, anything like that.
Yeah, because like in my older neighborhood, they're as low as like $1 square
So,
the rent.
yeah. Some of them can be that low. You get between $1 and $1.25. So you gotta be smart.
And
with
you have to
property
have
value.
amenities that might help.
Yeah, that helps.
they just mow the front entrance.
Yeah.
That's it. There's nothing. You have a green belt that's not kept.
Yeah. So
But that's it.
yeah.
Lots to think about though, but yeah.
Yeah, so she's saying, what about the new builds that are offering investors the same incentives as homeowners? Yeah, we were talking about that a minute ago, that they're, now the people that are going in there buying 10 properties are getting a better deal. But even if you're an investor, they're offering same incentives. Now, it would be interesting to see, if they're able to get the rate as low because it is an investment property, but even still, if they're buying down a regular buyer, they're buying them down to 4.5% from 6.25%.
They can only
Even
give
if
them up to 2%.
Yeah,
2%
but
in
even
incentives.
if they're still buying down that same percentage and yours isn't 4%, it's 4.75. Who cares?
Yeah.
Right. It's still a good rate.
Mhm.
They're still giving the incentives. So that's definitely a way to go. And every builder is a little bit different too. Don't think that they're all going to do that for you. Some of them will, some of them won't.
Depends on how much inventory they have.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what really matters, is are they having a good month or not? Like if you go in on the 15th of the month and they're having a slow month, I'm telling you, they've created more deals. Trust me.
Major price drops. I mean, I was on the hunt for a house under 100,000. I'm like, this is just never.
Yeah.
It's never going to happen. Go to some of the builders that do have a lot of inventory. There's a lot more negotiating to try to get it to that price point.
I went in with a client on like the 15th of last month, and the house was 215. They dropped it to 210. They were doing, I think the rate was going to be like 3.75, 3.5% down FHA. They had a realtor bonus. It was like they just kept putting offers on the table. Like, how do we make you sign?
I mean, they dropped them so quickly that even the hot sheets that they have for their neighborhood, their property, I mean, they're not even right.
Yeah.
Because they change so often.
Yeah, they do. They change their incentives a lot. So I think that going for a new build as an investor is a great idea as well.
Mm-hmm.
But the incentives are going to change per neighborhood. And so just kind of be aware, go in there, ask all the questions you can, and go to several of them.
Yeah.
And that's where a realtor is really good to have with you, because you have that barrier between you and the salesperson. And we don't mind telling a salesperson, hey, you know what, we're going to think about it.
That's right.
And when we say it, it's listen to a little bit more. When somebody just walks in there, they say, yeah, we're going to think about it. They start that used car sales mentality. They don't want you to leave, whereas if we're there, we say, okay, we're going to go, there's not much they can do. And then you go to a number of neighborhoods and see who's providing the best deal.
Right.
And then you choose one.
Well, and another thing is that we can always research that on the back end. So you're not having to go to every single one of these
Yeah.
neighborhoods
Yeah.
on your weeks.
And we already know what builders you want
Right.
to stay away from, which ones are good,
Yes.
right? You know, and we've been in all of those neighborhoods. And just because, you know, one builder has good product out here in New Braunfels doesn't mean it's the same product in Seguin or in Cibolo. It really comes down to the subs that are doing the actual work, and they just, by geographic area, take whatever subs, lowest bidders, whatever, and you could have a completely different product from one city to the next.
You could have a driveway that looked like it was done by a third grade.
You could have that.
You can.
It happens. You know, there's one, and I'll leave the builder's name out, but they're not too bad in most areas. And then I went to their properties in San Marcos, and it was terrible.
Different.
Yeah, I mean, the back door didn't line up at all. I opened the door, it closed itself. And it wasn't on a spring. It was just, and then I looked at it, and the whole thing's just cockeyed, you know. And you're like, oh wow, you know.
Well, but with that being said, also say they didn't have the best subs out there, but it also, I've experienced the home builder fixing every single thing that I blue taped. I mean, we used a whole roll of it.
Yep.
And it came down to the concrete, and that's important too. I mean, if they're willing to fix minor things that shouldn't, you know, doors being unlevel and not being able to lock, or screens being torn, it matters if they really put their money where their mouth is and say they're gonna fix it.
And most of them will fix those things, but my concern with that is, what don't we see? If I see the door being off, or, you know, or the baseboards aren't attached properly, or, you know what I mean? If I see that, then it's like, well, what did the framers do?
What did they
that
leave
I can't
behind?
even see anymore? You know what I mean? Like, I don't see that, you know. So how about the plumbing or the electrical? Like, can I trust that?
It smells like McDonald's.
So, you know, I mean, it's important. So, and there's a couple of builders that I know of that I've been in recently, that shall remain unnamed, that they don't even do blue tape anymore. They don't.
They just took that off the table.
They don't allow the buyers to do it.
Okay, that screams not good.
Right. So it's like, so you're not going to let us go through and tell you the things to fix. It's just take it or leave it. Okay.
Yeah.
So anyways, long story short, you know, agents will definitely help you get through that and understand where you should be, how what you should be looking at, what's a good deal, what's not, you know, all those things can be brought through
absolutely
an agent.
And there's so many thousands and thousands and thousands of new homes here, so many to choose from.
Lots.
You can kind of be patient to get that right one, especially if you have a realtor that can negotiate those things for you and do all the work on the back end.
Yep. Perfect. Put a period on it.
I think we're done. Thank y'all for watching.
Yep, that was good. All right, well, next week, I think Stacy's going to be with us and going over, is it a good time to buy? Is it a good time to get in the market for, not for investors, but for everyday buyers?
Right.
So, should be a good one. Tune in next week, Wednesday at 6:30. We'll see y'all then.
All right. Bye.